guy on. He is a distinguished actor and a producer. He's done a lot of stuff. He's a real actor. You know, a lot of people, I feel like, just go to Hollywood and they become stars, or they don't, but they don't really put the work in. This guy comes out of Stanford, saw him on legit theater. Like, I've seen him do real stage work. I've seen him do enormously difficult things in terms of broad characters, like way beyond what you'd necessarily think of him being cast as. But then he also does the handsome doctor in The Good Doctor, and he's on La Brea. He does it all, and I'm excited and honored to have him in our mix. Here's Nicholas Gonzales, everybody.
Hey, Mr. Thompson. How you doing, brother?
Nice to see you, sir. Really?
You.
Yeah, look at that.
I wasn't aware you'd seen so many things, and then I was kind of worried that you were mixing me up with someone else. I didn't know who you were introducing initially.
Yeah, I saw you do a theater production at which I met your family. I think I met your dad for sure. I think other members of your family in Los
probably
Angeles.
With Sharon Lawrence.
That's exactly right.
Down at Edgemar Center for the Arts.
Yeah, you were really good, man. I have a lot of respect for, those who can do legit theater and also, what you do, television and film.
And me too. It's been a long time since I've done theaters. I have a lot of respect for those guys too. I miss it.
I also saw you, as I could just take a walk through the Nicholas Gonzales memory lane real quick, and then I want to ask you what's going on in Hollywood. But I saw you play like a very gay forward character, and I'm trying to remember what it was like I feel like it was a primetime show on ABC, and I forget what the show was. Do you know what I'm talking? You know what I'm talking about?
There's been a few, maybe Brothers and Sisters, I think.
I feel as though you were a cross-dresser, or you were, it was more than that, though. I think you were no? Anyway.
No, early on, like probably one of the first things I ever did was there were 6 pretty critically acclaimed episodes of a really show that could, I think, quickly be seen as corny. But if you look back at MTV's Undressed when it came out in the late 90s, they were kind of pushing some envelopes. I mean, it was what's his name who produced Killing Fields.
Oh wow!
Roland Joffe was the producer for this, so I was like, oh my god, Killing Fields, man, it's such an incredible film. I can't wait to be a part of this project, sir. And it ended up being a lot more of a soap opera, but it was ahead of its time. And I did play a character who was very openly gay in a gay relationship and whatnot. But I don't know if
I don't recall the name of the show.
I'm trying to think of what I
remember. You were on 6 Feet. Weren't you 6 Feet Under, or was it?
No, I was 6 Feet Under's Freddie Rodriguez, but I know you're not.
No, I wasn't confusing you with another Latino.
No.
That's great. Well, now, of course, The Good Doctor and then La Brea. I mean, those are two big shows. And hey, when you sign then I want to ask you about what's happening in the world of labor relations in Hollywood. It's a big changes with the Directors Guild taking that deal.
When and all these years later, like, what's it like after 6 Feet Under? Let's talk about, let's break down each season.
A lot of people would have researched exactly what their guest had done. Like, they would never make a mistake like that. Not me. I am just going right head first.
To be fair, you could probably throw a dart at a list of shows and probably land on something that I was on, because there was a period where I was like, I don't care, I'm taking this job. And I just went on a tear of guest and recurring spots. So it's a good possibility I was probably on one of yours.
When you do that, though, that's generally good for you to be on a bunch of stuff, even if the show isn't necessarily you want to be in the game, right?
For me, it's a lot about the part too. And as a guy, like, if you're either a regular on a show, or it's funny, as a regular on a show, you're looking at all the guest stars and the recurring, going, oh man, they're the ones, they got it all figured out. Because they're going from, these guest spots to, then they're going to go to a cool movie, then they're going to go to a bit of theater, but they're looking at the guy who's got the regular position on the TV shoot going, oh man, this guy's got it all figured out. And so it's tough. We want both of them, but yeah, it's great. I mean, I think having different audiences, and now it's not the same. I mean, you can go from a soap opera to Marvel movie, I don't think actors are penalized for things they do. So I've kind of ran with that. I mean, it's not unusual for you to see me in a Christmas movie. I try to make it a good one, or different, or that's the kind of mission I'm on with some of these things where I'm like, well, what if the script was just good? How about that? What
Right.
if we started there? So that's my interest.
Uh, when you yeah, when you manage a career, I guess it has to evolve in a lot of different ways, and you don't always have the choices that you want. I mean, you've been lucky, and
Right.
as you say, more than lucky. I mean, I think you got to show up with the goods. So now with having achieved some momentum, I'm wondering if you can give us a perspective, both from a performer's standpoint, I mean, from an actor's standpoint, and also, from a producer's standpoint. That is to say, as you begin to, husband these projects through the world of Hollywood, what's happening with writers, with directors, with producers, and with studios? I mean, there is an entrance into this game of
Film
AI.
husbandry. I love to
Yeah,
with this
yeah,
this term you've coined now, as I
yes.
husband film into
As you husband
fruition.
these projects through, Nicholas,
It's funny you say that though, because I'm doing them alongside my wife. It took really her drive to say, I'm telling you, you have these ideas, or we have these ideas, or there are things that come around. There's an article you read in the paper that spurs an idea, and there's money to be made. There's a lot that's been left on the table my whole career because I just didn't have it all figured out. And I'm the kind of perfectionist who's far from perfect, like us all, and is so intent on my first draft being the final draft and all that kind of stuff that I found myself really stuck. And it took, my wife going, "Hey, let's get moving. What do you say?
you
Let's
have mouths
create."
to feed, right?
And
But
I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't
yeah.
know. You're not sure." And she just runs headlong, and 9 times out of 10 has pushed us in all the right directions. So that's been great. But it's a very different, crazy atmosphere out there now.
Yeah, and
Right.
I'm going to double back to the labor thing in a second, but
Okay.
with all of the different outlets, and as your wife has apparently suggested, with all of these different platforms available for you to create something, and with all the different stories to tell, is that net win for those of us who are taking it in, or is there more crap out there, or do you think the overall quality hasn't changed?
Um, I do think there's a higher availability of everything. I mean, throughout. I always think, I mean, projects have to get better. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? About become a professional, you have to do a lot of crappy work. You got to put a lot of crap out there, and eventually it gets better. I mean, I look back at a lot of my old work. I mean, last week, and I was putting crap out there now. But you look at some of your old work and you realize, and even at other times, there's times when we miss the mark, or we didn't have the team together, or whatever reason. This is at its best art, and so um, at its best. But I think the industry is there is a lot more available. There's a lot more schlock, but also I think there's a lot more that speaks to personal stories out there, which, as we see, are pretty universal. Even those ones that seem so niche that no one would ever greenlight, it's what everyone gravitates to because there are dirty little secrets, or there are little, you know, our little peccadillos, or those kind of stories that we're fascinated by, the people who get caught doing the things we all dream about doing sometimes.
That's a great. I think that's a great. Peccadillo is a ding word. You're right. That's congratulations. The
Just a little sin.
the deal with documentaries. I think you really notice it, but also with some of these other things you're talking about is you can find projects now. I use projects, whatever, movies, TV, whatever it
Right.
might. Some offering you can find in a way you probably couldn't before. Before there were
So
fewer
specialized.
places. Yeah,
Yeah, no one
exactly.
no one would have greenlit those projects, or there wouldn't have been a way to get them out to everybody. And now, with the advent of everything from YouTube to, I mean, everything streaming on everything from Snapchat to I don't know, we're gonna
TikTok.
age
Yeah.
ourselves, the Facebook and tick face, you know. But all that, like,
Yeah.
you never thought, no one's gonna look at this vertically, and kids are watching movies
Yeah.
on their phone, not even horizontally, but vertically, and
Right.
everything's kind of a little more focused. So they're shot in these kind of really dramatic close-ups. And
I
it's
mean,
sure.
for purists, it has to be tough. I remember talking to a major producer who said, "This is probably around the year 2000," and he said, "Mark, people will never watch movies on their phone." And every time, and of course, yeah. I mean, that's maybe
I watched Maverick on the back of like a Qantas flight, like a domestic little
right.
screen, and it was amazing. it was incredible. I appreciated all of it. But yeah, tiny.
Uh, that's
So
great. Advent, you're right, is a ding word. Well done. All right. So, what's happening in Hollywood? The directors take this deal. Here's the way I have decoded this a little bit. With solidarity, the directors pushing back on any kind of deal could have shown solidarity with the writers, and maybe that would have helped the writers overall. But the directors made a deal, and this is how that deal could help the writers. They made a deal on many of the things that are associated with back end and compensation that can now be integrated into the writers' deal.
definitely.
The only thing the writers still need to work out that the directors didn't need to work out in as big a way is AI. Yeah. So I wonder your thoughts.
It's a hard one. I had a conversation at the Whole Foods this morning with another friend who's a cinematographer who was there with his second kid getting
That's where
groceries.
deals are made, though, right there at the Whole Foods,
After we
right?
literally just dropped off our daughters at school, we're like, hey, and talked about the strike. And I think what's good about the strike, the DGA, I think everyone didn't expect it to last that long. And I can't remember if that's because historically they're a little bit quicker at making these deals or what. But I didn't feel like it didn't show solidarity. What I felt, and again, I'm not right there in the trenches, so to speak, but I feel like I felt a little bit of optimism of, well, maybe the SAG strike could come and go, and maybe it will be really short, which has been kind of like the quick forecast people have been throwing out there. Why, I'm not sure, but I think the big thing with the writers and is going to be with the actors is AI, and writers just don't want it used in any way. And I think that you get everyone else having a little bit of issue with that because it does streamline some positions, mostly in the planning phase. Writing, I just don't think it's there. But as a person whose own content is going to be out there to be pillaged by AI, and the way we didn't understand streaming technology when we made the last deal, I just think we can't be naive here. And I think there needs to be a lot of safeguards along the way as things change and we go, oh, I didn't realize it's going to be that way. And there has to be some sort of acknowledgement for that. And the growth of technology is so fast, we can't be beholden to this bad legislation.
Yeah, that's so right. And I think in that, what you just said, there is the complexity, like what has to be crafted. It's hard to say what it should be. And in the case of the writers, as you've also said, the planning or the writing of the Bible and for a show and the episodic beats of different shows in a series, that'll be done by a smaller group of people is the thought. And this is what the studios want.
Yeah, the mini rooms.
The mini rooms, exactly. And they
and for a
shed a
shorter
lot of
amount
these
of
other
time.
writers. Yeah.
Where they're just brought on to polish something up and then kicked back out and not seen, don't get to see anything on, and any sort of back end is non-existent, much less residuals that are when these things are sold in house. It was bad enough when Fox started FX and these other little networks and they just sold their own shows to each other and then could show them in perpetuity, and we were just getting less and less. I come from the era where you could live very handsomely on residuals. I still do in some ways, but those are the more recent projects, and even then they're nothing like you used to get before, which is really commensurate with what you put out there. That this job is not consistent, regardless of the quality that you want to put out there. There's not a lot of consistency, even for those of us who have been working consistently. And I haven't had another job since '98, but there has to be there's so much money up top. There's so much money up top that there just has to be a distribution of that. When we are the faces of that, we're the ones who have let ourselves go, or we're the ones who aren't what we were anymore, just because of whether hair is off that day or makeup or lighting or anything else. We're still the people up there in front, and the writing is something that's still up there in front, is the backbone of what we're putting out there. Artists should continue to be paid for the work they put out there. It gets hairy when I think you start talking about background workers and things like that, and being paid a residual in perpetuity. But I think that I don't know enough to speak on that, so I don't know why I brought that up. But I do feel that I think AI is going to be the biggest stumbling block. But I felt like we gave away a lot before, that
Right,
I'd love to see
right.
back.
I mean, and last thing with Nicholas Gonzales, I would just say that the merger mania. I've had this issue on with many other things besides media, but it creates a lack of competition and real leverage on the part of the studios that the workers just don't have. It's weird to think of these incredibly creative and sometimes insanely successful people as workers, but that's what they are: writers and actors, performers. And you don't have as many places to ply your wares, to do what you do,
Right.
because the platforms are owned by fewer and fewer entities. It's screwed
But
up,
I have
I think.
I have a hard time listening to that the money isn't there when this is on the eve of it's still fresh in our mouths, the taste of $400 million deals that were given to creators and writers that were brought over, and snatching executives back and forth, um, hundreds of millions of dollars, that and deals of 400, that seemed crazy and astronomical because, well, it was there and the money was there and they were throwing it around, but now it's suddenly we don't have the money to support even the work that's already done.
Yeah, they're always going to plead poverty, but you're right. The numbers just don't pencil out that way.
Well, the numbers aren't visible either, a lot of times with streamers. And
That's a huge issue. That's another huge issue. It's crazy to think you used to
and
be
what
able to
show
look at.
isn't the biggest streamer? I mean, I think every show that comes out goes, it's top in streaming, but now it's only number 20, and every show that comes out is top in streaming and billions of views.
If you produce a show for Netflix, even the producers of the show aren't ever told exactly how many times it was streamed. It's crazy. I mean, imagine that. So even on that end of it, the studios really, the new streaming monsters, it seems, have a lot of leverage. So I hope.
But how does that work for them too? Is it if you're not watching advertising on Netflix, what is it? Foreign sales of just their originals? I don't know, and I don't the model. I'm not sure about how to keep
right. They want subscribers. They want time spent on the platform. But you're right. It's odd. And now they are integrating ads. So they will be ad supported on some level, unskippable ads. You're seeing it across many platforms.
What's on Max? I was watching Succession and I had like commercials, on Max, which I thought was so crazy. And I'm like,
yeah, you do feel violated. Hey, I'm paying for this.
Yeah.
I'm paying for this service and you're still stuffing this stuff down my throat. Yeah. I don't know. Look, more than anything, I just think super creative people deserve to be compensated for their work. And I consider artists and performers, I consider you guys doing something that's really hard and through oftentimes extraordinary circumstance. I mean, these location shoots through all this bizarre weather. I mean, I know you went to Australia to shoot La Brea, I think it was. And
right.
I mean, you've been it's what you're asked to do and what you continually do. It's extraordinary, and you deserve to be compensated.
And it's a great adventure, and it's a life I love. But yes, I think people have to be paid for it. And we spent a long time perfecting whatever it is you hire us to do. But I think people need to then be compensated fairly.
Yeah,
and I think we saw in the pandemic, what was the first thing everybody turned to?
Wow, exactly.
Art,
right.
Music,
sure.
Yeah, TV, film.
Right. Look, that's where these platforms flourished. They flourished in all those places, and for that time, the pandemic. Come back and promote something that you're doing as you move on to your next thing, will you please?
Fantastic. Would love to.
All right.
Such a pleasure.
Nicholas, yeah, really great to see you, man. Thank you for coming by. Nicholas Gonzales, everybody. Yeah, right on. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.